Climate change is affecting animals in a lot of different ways, but scientists have noticed a common trend across a variety of species. They're getting smaller, as in physically smaller in size. But why? And what could this mean? Scientists have observed this phenomenon in very different animal species, from wild sheep to wood rats. But it's especially well documented in North American songbirds. In 2019, researchers at the University of Michigan published a data set of more than 70,000 birds that died after hitting windows in Chicago. The data showed that the body sizes for dozens of species had actually shrunk over the past 40 years. But when Justin Baldwin, a graduate student at Washington University in St. Louis, took a closer look at the data, something stood out.
There clearly seem to be some species that were shrinking a lot and other species that were shrinking much less.
The question was, why were some bird species shrinking faster than others? Baldwin and his colleagues had a feeling that bird behavior might be playing a role. In birds, species with bigger brains tend to be smarter and can change their behavior based on their environment. That means they might be able to buffer themselves from increasing temperatures, says Carlos Botero, an assistant professor of biology at Washington University and the study's co-author.
By adjusting their behavior, by changing the places that they look for food, the times of the day in which they do that, the things that they eat, and the ways in which they access those food sources, all of those are ways in which they could experience a little bit less of a negative selection from all this variety of changes that we're seeing through climate change.
A bigger-brained bird, for example, might adjust its behavior and stay in the shadows when it's hot. So the team decided to reanalyze that massive original data set, but this time factor in brain size. They found birds with larger brains in relation to their body size are shrinking at slower rates than birds with smaller brains. And that was true even after controlling for other factors that could affect how quickly these birds are evolving, like generation time and mutation rate. But Botero says, just because these larger-brained bird species can temporarily buffer themselves from warmer temperatures, it doesn't mean they're completely protected from climate change.
It is important to realize that what we see here is not an indication that big-brained birds are fine and that they are not having any problems, or that they are just capable to take whatever kind of change is coming from this suite of different environmental phenomena that is happening right now.
Still, the team says there's a lot left to learn when it comes to the ways in which behavior could affect how bird species respond to climate change. For one thing, in this study, there was only about a twofold difference in relative brain size between the species with the largest brain, the song sparrow, and the one with the smallest, the Swainson's thrush. That means the responses could be even stronger in birds with larger brains, like crows.
We're sampling only a small amount of the potential variation in relative brain size here in our study. And so that does suggest that even potentially small differences in relative brain size might actually have a large effect on ecological responses to climate change.
For now, Baldwin says, one of the key takeaways is that smaller brain bird species could be especially vulnerable as the climate continues to change. For Scientific American's
这篇 podcast 主要在讲的是鸟就是越来越小只，就是真的整只越来越小只，然后他们从美国的实验显示出很多都变小只，然后很多都死于那个撞到玻璃或者是一些奇怪的因素，对，然后为什么越来越小只？有可能是因为环境的因素，或者是说气候的变迁，还有一些其他因素。但是后面我有听到是说，他们也有可能是因为数据的关系，因为只有分两种 size 的大小，就是可能说比较大只跟比较小只。然后他有说主要跟脑袋的大小是比较有相关的，对，差不多是这样。但是那个气候的原因比较主要。
好的，这一篇主要是在讲说鸟类因为气候的影响， 他们中间有提到说鸟类关于大小只的差别，还有大小脑的差别。我听到的是觉得说，他们大鸟，他们那个大鸟，他们比较容易去，他们会比较容易去适应那个温度，所以在climate change 就是那个气候变迁上会比较好啊。然后小脑的话比较难。